footnote. To quote but a few instances, a wounded badger was carried away by another badger suddenly appearing on the scene. Rats have been seen feeding a blind couple (open bracket, Seal and Laban, their theory, page 64, sequence, close bracket). Brehm himself saw two crows feed in a hollow tree, a third crow, which was wounded. Its wound was several weeks old. Open bracket, Hostrand, 1874, 715, Buchner's Liebe, 203. Close bracket. Mr. Bliff saw Indian crows feeding 2 or 3 blind comrades, and so on. Close footnote. G.C. Wood's narrative of a weasel which came to pick up and to carry away an injured comrade enjoys a well-merited popularity. Open footnote. Men and Beast, page 344. Close footnote. So also the observation of Captain Stransbury on his journey to Utah, which is quoted by Darwin. He saw a blind pelican which was fed and well fed by other pelicans upon fishes which had to be brought from a distance of 30 miles. Open footnote. L. H. Morgan, The American Beaver, 1868, page 272, Descent of Man, chapter 4th. Close footnote. And when a herd of vicuñas was hotly pursued by hunters, H. A. Weddell saw more than once during his journey to Bolivia and Peru the strong males covering the retreat of the herd, and lagging behind in order to protect the retreat. As to facts of compassion with wounded comrades, they are continually mentioned by all field zoologists. Such facts are quite natural. Compassion is a necessary outcome of social life, but compassion also means a considerable advance in general intelligence and sensibility. It is the first step towards the development of higher moral sentiments. It is, in its turn, a powerful factor of further evolution. If the views developed on the preceding pages are correct, the question necessarily arises: in how far are they consistent with the theory of struggle for life as it has been developed by Darwin, Wallace, and their followers? And I will now briefly answer this important question. First of all, no naturalist will doubt that the idea of a struggle for life carried on through organic nature is the greatest generalization of our century. Life is struggle, and in that struggle the fittest survive. But the answers to the questions, by which arms is this struggle chiefly carried on, and who are the fittest in the struggle, will widely differ according to the importance given to the two different aspects of the struggle: the direct one, for food and safety among separate individuals, and the struggle which Darwin described as metaphorical, the struggle, very often collective, against adverse circumstances. No one will deny that there is within each species a certain amount of real competition for food, at least at certain periods. But the question is whether competition is carried on to the extent admitted by Darwin or even by Wallace, and whether this competition has played in the evolution of the animal kingdom the part assigned to it. The idea which permeates Darwin's work is certainly one of real competition going on within each animal group for food, safety, and possibility of living and offspring. He often speaks of regions being stocked with animal life to their full capacity, and from that overstocking he infers the necessity of competition. But when we look in his work for real proofs of that competition, we must confess that we do not find them sufficiently convincing. If we refer to the paragraph entitled "Struggle for Life Most Severe Between Individuals and Varieties of the Same Species," we find in it none of that wealth of proof and illustrations which we are accustomed to find in whatever Darwin wrote. The struggle between individuals of the same species is not illustrated under that heading by even one single instance. It is taken as granted, and the competition between closely allied animal species is illustrated by but 5 examples, out of which one at least (open bracket) relating to the 2 species of thrushes (close bracket) now proves to be doubtful. Open footnote. One species of swallow is said to have caused the decrease of another swallow species in North America. The recent increase of the missel thrush in Scotland has caused the decrease of the song thrush. The brown rat has taken the place of the black rat in Europe. In Russia, the small cockroach has everywhere driven before it its greater congener, and in Australia the imported hive bee is rapidly exterminating the small, stingless bee. 2 other cases, but relative to domesticated animals, are mentioned in the preceding paragraph. While recalling these same facts, A. R. Wallace remarks in a footnote relative to the Scottish thrushes: "Professor A. Newton, however, informs me that these species do not interfere in the way here stated." (Open bracket, Darwinism, page 34. Close bracket. As to the brown rat, it is known that owing to its amphibian habits, it usually stays in the lower parts of human dwellings. open bracket, low cellars, sewers, etc., close bracket, as also on the banks of canals and rivers. It also undertakes distance migrations in numberless bands. The black rat, on the contrary, prefers staying in our dwellings themselves under the floor, as well as in our stables and barns. It thus is much more exposed to be exterminated by man, and we cannot maintain with any approach to certainty that the black rat is being either exterminated or starved out by the brown rat and not by man. Close footnote. But when we look for more details in order to ascertain how far the decrease of one species was really occasioned by the increase of the other species, Darwin, with his usual fairness, tells us we can dimly see why the competition should be most severe between allied forms which fill nearly the same place in nature, but probably in no case could we precisely say why one species has been victorious over another in the great battle of life. As to Wallace, who quotes the same facts under a slightly modified heading (open bracket, struggle for life between closely allied animals and plants often most severe), close bracket, he makes the following remark, which gives quite another aspect to the facts above quoted. He says: "In some cases, no doubt, there is actual war between the two, the stronger killing the weaker, but this is by no means necessary, and there may be cases in which the weaker species physically may prevail by its power of more rapid multiplication, its better withstanding vicissitudes of climate, or its greater cunning in escaping the attacks of common enemies. In such cases, what is described as competition may be no competition at all. One species succumbs not because it is exterminated or starved out by the other species, but because it does not well accommodate itself to new conditions which the other does. The term struggle for life is again used in its metaphorical sense, and may have no other. As to the real competition between individuals of the same species, which is illustrated in another place by the cattle of South America during a period of drought, its value is impaired by its being taken from among domesticated animals. Bisons emigrate in like circumstances in order to avoid competition. However severe the struggle between plants, and this is amply proved, we cannot but repeat Wallace's remark to the effect that plants live where they can, while animals have to a great extent the power of choice of their abode. So that we again are asking ourselves, to what extent does competition really exist within each animal species? Upon what is the assumption based? The same remark must be made concerning the indirect argument in favour of a severe competition and struggle for life within each species, which may be derived from the extermination of transitional varieties so often mentioned by Darwin. It is known that for a long time Darwin was worried by the difficulty which he saw in the absence of a long chain of intermediate forms between closely allied species, and that he found the solution of this difficulty in the supposed extermination of the intermediate forms. Open footnote. But it may be urged that when several closely allied species inhabit the same territory, we surely ought to find at the present time many transitional forms. By my theory, these allied species are descended from a common parent, and during the process of modification each has become adapted to the conditions of life of its own region, and has supplanted and exterminated its original parent form and all the transitional varieties between its past and present states. Open bracket, Origin of Species, 6th edition, page 144, close bracket, also page 137, 296, open bracket, all paragraph on extinction, close bracket, close footnote. However, an attentive reading of the different chapters in which Darwin and Wallace speak of this subject soon brings one to the conclusion that the word extermination does not mean real extermination. The same remark which Darwin made concerning his expression struggle for existence evidently applies to the word extermination as well. It can by no means be understood in its direct sense, but must be taken in its metaphoric sense. If we start from the supposition that a given idea is stocked with animals to its fullest capacity, and that a keen competition for the sheer means of existence is consequently going on between all the inhabitants, each animal being compelled to fight against all its congeners in order to get its daily food, then the appearance of a new and successful variety would certainly mean, in many cases, open bracket, though not always, close bracket, the appearance of individuals which are enabled to seize more than their fair share of the means of existence, and the result would be that those individuals would starve both the parental form, which does not possess the new variation, and the intermediate forms, which do not possess it in the same degree. It may be that at the outset Darwin understood the appearance of new varieties under this aspect. At least the frequent use of the word extermination conveys such an impression.